Okay. Hey, everybody, I'm here with blues legend and my good friend Charlie Musselwhite, who's dialing in from his home in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Hello, Charlie. How are you?
I'm doing better than I deserve.
No, I reject that. You deserve to be doing as well as anybody, but I'm glad to hear that. Um, you got a new record out, Lookout Highway, and it's so great. I mean, it's completely timeless. Although you do have a couple of nods that make it sound you can sort of tell that it's 2026. But I mean, I just love how timeless it is and how there's something reassuring about someone like you still making that great music. How does it feel to be writing and making new music?
Well, I'm just glad that people are liking it. I'm kind of surprised that uh, it's getting such really nice reviews, but I'm very pleased with that. It gives you faith in what you're doing. It's a nice thing.
Yeah. Do you feel compelled to write music? Like sometimes people when they've been in a career as long as yours, you could just go you're going to go out and tour, you're going to get who you get to come to see you whether you have a new album or not, I think. So what's the compulsion to keep making new music and recording?
Well, I really love the music, and I often say, even if I'd never had a career in music at all, I'd still be playing it because I just have to play it. It feels good. I say it's your comforter when you're down and your buddy when you're up. Always there for you. And as far as writing songs, well, I enjoy writing songs as much as I enjoy playing the music. So it's all one piece. Um, yeah, I get something out of it. It feeds your heart.
Yeah. You have such an interesting geographic background because you're born in Mississippi, you grew up in Memphis, you started making your career in Chicago, you moved to San Francisco early. All of those places, of course, are really important in the history of music and blues, especially. What do each of those places, if anything, have to do with who you became musically?
Well, I was real lucky to be in all those places when I was. Um, like in Memphis, the whole rockabilly thing happened, and right across the street from me lived Johnny and Dorsey Burnett, who were like some of the originators of that. And next door to me was Jimmy Griffin, who, uh, through their help, got into the music business and later had a band called Bread in the 70s. Uh, then Beale Street was right there in Memphis, and I got to hanging around Beale Street, and through one thing and another, I got to meet all these different really old time blues players like Furry Lewis and Will Shade and Gus Cannon and a lot more. And during this time, I knew I loved music, but I didn't know I was going to have a career in music. That was the last thing in my mind. I had no desire to be on stage or in the spotlight. But looking back, I was preparing myself for a career, and I didn't know it, or I would have paid a lot more attention. I was just having fun. And then later in Chicago, I didn't even know that all that blues scene was in Chicago. I didn't know anything about Chicago. I just went there like thousands of other people looking for a good job up north. And I discovered the whole blues scene. And am I answering your question? I'm not sure if I'm rambling or.
Yeah, no, I mean it. Yeah. So let's talk about that. When you went to Chicago, you were pretty young. How old were you, and what was the job you were looking for up there?
I was 18, and friends of mine had already gone up to Chicago and come back and told about these great factory jobs they got. Like all day long, you could get a job anywhere, and they paid really well and had good benefits and way better than in the South. So I was just looking for anything. Any one of those factory jobs would have been fine. But the first job I got was a driver for an exterminator, which was perfect because I drove him all over Chicago and I got to learn the whole city real well. And started seeing these signs and flyers for people like Muddy Waters and Elmore James and Howlin' Wolf. And so that's how I knew there was a big blues scene there. All my heroes are right there.
You really didn't know they were there when you when you went up to Chicago?
No, not really. I mean, somebody had told me once that anybody that was a successful entertainer either lived in Hollywood or New York City. And I was aware that Chicago had something to do with it because on the labels I would see Chicago, Chess Records would say Chicago, and I had met Muddy and James Cotton in Memphis before I left. I went to a show they did and got to meet them, and they had mentioned something about Chicago, but I still didn't know that there was this whole big scene there, like there was. I really didn't have a clue.
That's amazing. Who do you think is your biggest influence on the harmonica? Was there any one person you tried to pattern yourself after, or was it a combination?
Well, I didn't really try to pattern myself after anybody, but Walter Horton was surely a big influence. And in Memphis, I had known Will Shade, who supposedly was a big influence on Walter Horton. So I get the double whammy there on the harmonica. Uh, and I listen to everybody, and not only harmonicas, but any instrument, like a violin, even I would listen to for riffs and things that I thought might sound cool on the harmonica. Um, so I got inspiration all over the place.
And then the Butterfield Blues Band was popping when you were there, right? I've always been a little confused about the relationship between you and them. Could you describe that a little bit?
Well, Bloomfield and I had a band, uh, and we were working in a club called Big John's. We were like the house band, and then we dropped that gig, and Butterfield took it over. We went to another club, and that didn't work out too well. And I realized that Mike really didn't like being a band leader. We never rehearsed. I mean, it was just so loosey goosey, and it wasn't really going anywhere. And I was doing other gigs with other bands too, like Johnny Young and Floyd Jones and Robert Nighthawk, working on the South Side. So at some point, I don't remember all the details of this, but uh, Paul hired Mike, and that was perfect for Mike because suddenly he could just play and not have the responsibilities of being a band leader. Uh, there was oh yeah, and and I were friends. I mean, he lived in a part of town called Hyde Park, which was around the University of Chicago, and I lived further south of there in the actual real South Side on a street called 61st Place, and it was between the Illinois Central Railroad tracks and Dorchester. And on Dorchester, just around the corner, lived Junior Wells. we would pass each other going back and forth to the liquor store. But Paul would often call me up and say, "Hey, come on over. Let's listen to some records." And he'd always ask me to bring him a Pepsi because some people like coffee in the morning. Paul liked a cold Pepsi in the morning.
So you
And
guys
we're
were
both,
friends. You weren't in cut. Did you consider yourself in, was there ever a rivalry or competition between the two of you?
I never felt like that. I don't think he did either. I mean, uh, when I first got to Chicago, I had no idea that there was any way it was possible at all that I could make a living playing harmonica. This is just something I did for my own satisfaction. But then when I saw guys like Paul and some other guys I'd met, uh, white guys my age that were playing blues, I thought, well, I think I can do that.
Do you think culturally was it easier at all for you to fit in with the largely black blues musicians from your background, having grown up in the South and being working class compared to some of the northern college educated white guys, other like Mike?
Well, I remember a lot of these guys when they would introduce me. A lot of the blues guys, when they would introduce me to somebody, a friend of theirs, they would always say, "Charlie, he's from down home." Like that really meant something, Like I wasn't a local white Yankee kid. I was from down home, and that was better somehow. We never discussed it, but I noticed that often I would hear that. And another thing that was interesting about that era, uh, I was working in factories with black guys my age, and I would talk about the music, and they just thought I was crazy. They just say, "Why are you listening to that old folks music?" It'd tell me you got to get up with the times,
Yeah,
and they just thought it was just insane for me to be interested in blues because it was just the old folks music. They just, they thought it was pretty amusing that I liked the old folks music.
yeah. It was the music of their parents and their grandparents.
Yeah, they wanted nothing to do with it. I mean, nothing.
Yeah. Could you talk about Mike a little bit as a guitar player and as a personality? Um, how good he struck you at the in those earliest days?
Well, he had this, I don't know what you would call it. He had a memory. It was like unbelievable. You could take a book off his bookshelf and turn to any page and like read the first sentence or two, and he could quote the rest of the page. Uh, he had this fantastic memory, so that helped in his guitar playing because he could memorize all these different styles of everybody. He could say, "Play this guy, play that guy, play this guy." And he could mimic all those anybody you named. Uh, he also really loved blues and had this real fire in himself to play with fire and excitement, and he was real good at it.
Yeah.
uh,
And you moved out to the Bay Area before Mike and Paul and those guys did, right? And
no, I think they were. I think they had already gone out there. I believe they were. I'm pretty sure they already lived out there when I came out.
okay, what prompted your move?
Well, I kept getting after my first album came out, which only took us 3 hours to record, under 3 hours really. Uh, I started getting calls from all around the country. Come here, play here. And I kept putting them off because I was having a great time in Chicago. And, I was still pretty young and no responsibilities hardly. But then this one guy in California kept persisting and finally came up with a whole month of work for really good money, better money than I was making in the little clubs in Chicago. So I thought, well, okay, I'll just go out there and make that money and come on back to Chicago. But when I got out to California, I saw that the whole West Coast had a whole circuit of clubs and big places like the Fillmore. They weren't the little tiny blues clubs like in Chicago. These were big rooms that could really pay way more than I would ever get in Chicago. So I don't know. It was pretty good sign, pretty good reason not to go back to Chicago. And
Yeah.
so and it was true. I could tour all up and down the West Coast. And from there, I started branching out till I was touring all across the country.
Mhm. I want to talk about some of the people you've worked with over the years and just get some of your thoughts and impressions on them. Uh, Starting with one of my longtime favorites, Tom Waits. Um, how was Tom to work with?
Oh, it's great. It's surprising and interesting and fun and uh, unusual to say the least. And he's had me do things like just snort into a microphone in time. You know, I
Yeah,
would draw on the harmonica and then snort through my nose. And he had a microphone by my nose. Another time, my amp was feeding back, and I'm moving it, trying to find a spot where it wouldn't feed back. And he says, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, my amp's feeding back." He says, "Well, let it feed back. It's okay."
I think you've done some work over the years with my friend Warren Haynes and Government Mule.
Yeah, our paths crossed down there, and I've sat in with him a few times. Never toured or anything like that, or did a gig.
Yeah. How did you find playing with Warren?
Fine, he seemed receptive, but the volume was usually so loud I couldn't even tell what if I was. I was hoping I was in the right key. I
Right.
couldn't hear myself at all. It was just kind of like walking in the dark.
Has that been a problem over the years? Is that a frequent problem, especially when you're sitting in with people?
Not usually, except some of these guitar players really like the volume. I don't know what that's about, but uh, it's hard for an instrument like harmonica to get that kind of volume over a guitar without squealing and feeding back and all kind of. It's a problem.
Yeah. What about you did a couple of albums, I think, with Ben Harper. How did your relationship with Ben begin, and how would you describe that uh, collaboration?
Well, the first time we met, John Lee Hooker he was always getting me to come. If I wasn't working, he wanted me to come play with him. He never paid me, but I would go anyhow. Whenever John called, I went. So Ben Harper was opening for John Lee at a club called the Sweetwater in Mill Valley, California.
Yeah, owned by Bob Weir.
Uh, Now there was a lady that ran it. I can't remember her name. Queenie, lady named Queenie ran it. Well, I think Bob Weir much later might have
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
owned it, but this was way back. And so that's when we first met. And not long after that, John Lee was doing an album. I think the title was called Friends, where each track he was with different people. And on one track was he had Ben Harper and his band and I backing him up. And we just really clicked in the studio. And even John Lee said that you guys should do some more recording together because it just seemed like some magic there. And we kept talking about that for years. Our paths would cross at festivals and things, and we were always too busy. Finally, uh, it just seemed to work out one time where we both had the time off. We went into the studio and recorded, and that was that first album. And then there was another one after that. We were on the road together for 4 years, I think.
It was a fruitful collaboration, and obviously you enjoyed it, I guess, or you wouldn't have kept going back to it.
Yeah, well, we're still in touch, and every now and then Ben keeps talking about he thinks it's time to do another album. So
Yeah.
when he's ready, I'm ready.
And speaking of John Lee, he officiated your wedding with Henry, right?
He was my best man.
Okay, that's amazing. So, was he of all of that older generation blues guys, was he the guy you became closest with, would you say?
Well, I was really close with a lot of those guys, but he definitely was a really close friend. I mean, I had known him from way back when he lived in Detroit, and I don't know how instrumental was in getting him to the West Coast, but I remember calling him from California saying, "John, you're going to really like the West Coast. You better get on out here." And not long after that, he was had an apartment in Oakland.
Yeah, and he became a real fixture of the Bay Area.
Yeah, he had several homes. He different towns he moved to all around the Bay Area, and I spent a lot of time at his home, and we were real close friends.
Yeah, that's great. I feel lucky to have gotten to seen him, quite a few times. And I remember the first time he would, he sat all night, most of the night, as you know. And then at the end, I guess what would he be? Boogie chillin', I guess, and he would
Yeah.
suddenly jump up and start stalking around the stage, and
Yeah,
it was really
prowling
kind
the
of
stage.
what? Yeah, it was kind of a
Prowling the
visual, he had that sense of drama. And he knew what he was doing. And then of course after that I knew he was going to do it, but it still would hit me every time. It would be so dramatic. It was almost like the I was blind, but now I can see moment.
Yeah, it never got boring.
Yeah, no, he was a thrill. Uh,
Yeah.
we've talked before. You and I first met in 2006 or 7 when you came to Beijing and I was living there. And so, first of all, it was amazing that you came over there. And as far as I remember, you and Henry just came because you had a friend over there and you just wanted to check out China, right?
Well, the friend he was teaching high end iron. I don't know the proper word for it, but he worked with iron or ornamental iron, and he was teaching there. And he had two sons, no, three. Uh, no, a brother and two sons. The brother was a drummer, and the two sons were a guitar player and bass player. And he wanted to see them and to get them to China. He would get them gigs, and somehow I don't remember how it unfolded, but they wanted me to come with them, and I was all about going there. I was real fascinated with China and really wanted to go, and so we worked it out. And
Yeah.
wasn't a big tour or nothing. We played at a bunch of clubs and stuff, and it was fascinating. I loved every minute of it. Would like
Yeah.
to go back.
It was a wonderful time in China. I'm so lucky that I ended up being there. And my band partner, Woody Woo, I think you've met him because he was your translator when you would do harmonica clinics, I believe. Right? And he didn't tell me this until later because he was a little close to the vest, but he was struggling with quitting drinking, and you were very helpful to him. And so I appreciate that. And we've talked about this before, but I know that to me it shows what kind of person you are because you had no incentive to help him. He wasn't a famous person. He wasn't a person you had a long relationship with, a friend or a family member or whatever. But he was a great musician. He is a great musician and a great person who needed help. And he's lucky that he found you at that moment that it did because it really helped him. And it was during those early shaky days. So thank you for that. And when did you get sober?
October 1987.
Okay. And
Yeah.
did you go through the program?
Well, sort of. I mean, I would go to AA meetings and I'd read literature about it and stuff. But what really got me to quit was um, one night driving to work. I was listening to the news, and on the news they were talking about this little girl that fell in a well in Texas, Jessica McClure, and she's at the bottom of a well with a broken arm, and she was being so brave. She was down there singing nursery rhymes to herself. They had lowered a microphone down to her and had a speaker down there, and this was a life and death situation. And I was so moved by her bravery, this little girl, and I really wanted her to live. Uh, it was for me, it was kind of like a prayer for her to live. I said, I'm going to go to work tonight and I'm not going to have a drink. And I'm not going to have a drink till they get her out of that well. I didn't say I was quitting. I just said I wasn't going to
Yeah,
drink till they got her out. Well, it took them about 3 days, I think. And by the time they got her out, well, I was out too.
that's amazing. And did you
Yeah.
start to was it a struggle for you from that point, or were you able to get through that?
Well, looking back, I remember at the time it seemed like thinking about quitting was actually harder than just quitting. It was like it was once I was sober, it was not nearly as hard to stay sober as it seemed to be from the other side when you're still immersed in alcohol. When I was in my alcohol days, quitting seemed like this how do you do that? I mean, how is that even possible? How do you this and that seems stupid to think, how do you quit? Well, you just stop, you know.
Yeah. Well, was that wrapped up in playing music? Because obviously, I'm sure you had, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but I think you probably had never played sober or played gigs sober. And of course, this is something that I've talked about with so many musicians over the years and with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimmy Vaughan and Bonnie Raitt, because I wrote the book on Stevie. And I was able to help Woody with that, but because he was one of the things he was struggling with was playing the gigs, as he was starting to go, and we would play
Yeah.
a gig that felt really good to me, and as we were packing up, he would he couldn't enjoy the gigs because all of a sudden it wasn't a party, and he was hearing every mistake instead of focusing on the big picture. And I did
Yeah.
counsel him a little bit, but it wasn't firsthand because have been blessed not to have that particular problem. But I know about it from talking to so many people. But you had the firsthand experience. Was that a struggle for you to play sober?
Well, first of all, the whole environment was, was alcohol was, and I was getting free drinks all the time. People were buying them, or the club just gave you free drinks, or so. And not wanting to be in the spotlight, not wanting to be on stage, I didn't have this hunger for attention. And in fact, I was very uncomfortable in front of people. But boy, with nothing alcohol, everything was okay.
Yeah,
It didn't bother me at all. Well, so eventually that became a problem, but I was real good at it, and I could drink a lot of it. But it became a point where it was affecting me in bad ways, and it didn't make me feel good anymore either. It was I would drink to keep from getting sick. If I quit, I got sick. I
right.
was really toxic. So, am I answering your question?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, listen, if you hadn't quit when you did, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation now. So
Yeah, I'm not. I'm sure about that. I'm thankful every day that I quit, and I'm always available to somebody that wants to quit. I feel like it's my duty, and I'm sure most people that have been through it and have quit are available to others that are trying to quit to help them. And like a guy like Woody, yeah, it didn't matter to me whether he was famous or not. He was just a good guy and who really wanted to quit. And if I can help him, I'll do what I can.
yeah, well, you did help him, and he's doing well now, and he's mostly moved to Thailand. He got married. He has a kid who's probably about two now, and he's still playing music, but he's really focused on musical healing, and he's written a couple of books about it, and he goes all around Asia and Europe now
Oh,
doing meditation and music, and he credits it with helping him heal, get through his alcoholism. And it was a journey for him to even use the word alcoholism, which wasn't so much of a concept in China. They certainly of course understand drinking too much, but they
yeah.
had a phrase that was basically like the alcohol devil, the devil in you. More or less, but the disease model was a little bit foreign, and I'm sure that's less the case, but traditionally. So that's one of the reasons it was hard for him and why having you to talk to was so valuable because it wasn't so mainstream where, okay, I have a problem, let me go find a meeting in a church basement, which
Yeah.
is, something that we know well here. Were
Well,
you
it's really great that he's doing what he's doing. It must really feed his heart too, like music feeds your heart to be able to work with people like that and take your message to people. And I love Thailand too.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna try to get over there to see him. Well, aside from that, were you surprised or taken aback by Woody and some other great Chinese musicians by how much they felt the music?
No, because I always felt like blues has such a power to it. It properly exposed to it, anybody should be able to get the feeling, the message from blues. Um, so it makes sense that people would hear it, become exposed to it, and get moved by it. And I've noticed that that happens even if they don't understand the lyrics, they can perceive the feeling that's in the music. And I've noticed that myself with other kinds of music. Like I remember being in Turkey one time, and there was two guys. One, they were both blind, and they were sitting down, staring up at the sun, or facing the sun. One was playing a drum, and the other one was playing some stringed instrument. And I don't know what that kind of music was, but it sure had a feeling to it, like blues. I mean, I could feel it. They were really playing from their heart. I mean, it was some tough blues they were playing. So music can have a message in it where it speaks to you through your heart, not through your head.
Yeah, I was very uncomfortable with my own singing voice and didn't but being in China, meeting Woody, and I had this opportunity. He brought in these other great Chinese musicians, and if I was going to do this, I had to sing these songs, and I did feel liberated by being in China, where they didn't necessarily, a lot of the crowds didn't understand the words, and I felt that it was a higher calling or something to try to convey the songs. I felt like if we performed it right and I sang it right, they could understand exactly what the song was about, even if they didn't understand a single word. And uh and I felt, because I do feel this music so much, whether it was, so we started writing our own music, but when we were singing BB King or, Blind Lemon Jefferson or
Yeah.
Allman Brothers or, Bob Dylan, it's all the same to me. I felt like that music is so important to me that if I was going to do it in China, I had like an obligation to get as deep as I could within myself. I mean, I
Sure.
had to, because
Yeah.
that might be the only version of a Bob Dylan song they hear live. So I better give it to them. I owe
Yeah.
it to the muse and to the great American whatever songbook, which all of these guys are to me. So it was an amazing experience. I'm glad that you got to have some of that experience over there.
Well, if you're really playing from your heart, I think most people pick up on that, whether they understand it or not, or where they've never ever heard it before, they get the message.
Yeah. Do you still, when you play music now, after all these decades of doing it, is it easy for you to get to that place? Do you have to work to feel it that deeply? Does it ever become just a gig, just a job, or when you start playing the music, are you there in that place?
I'd say 99.99% of the time, I'm always playing right from my heart. Uh, Sometimes there's situations that prevents you from feeling that way. But most of the time, the audience is receptive. They came there to hear the blues, and they want to hear the blues, and I want to give it to them, and it's a win-win.
Yeah. My friend Ted Drozdowski shared a clip of you a week or two ago playing slide guitar, I think in Nashville, uh, and it was so great. How
Oh,
much do
thank
you
you.
play guitar? How much over the years? How much have you played guitar?
Well, I've always played around the house. I play every day at home, uh, and on these tours I do with Elvin Bishop, I always play at least one tune on guitar. Sometimes I'll take a guitar and play with my band, but usually it's not more than one or two tunes. I have done solo tours where I played whole sets on guitar. I toured with BB. I did two tours with BB King where I would come out and play a set on guitar by myself. So it's happened, but it's rare.
Yeah. Do you enjoy it? Do you get the same feeling from playing? And what stands out about your guitar playing to me is your slide playing is just, really bites.
Oh, well, thank you. Uh, yeah, I love it. Like I say, I play at home every day, so I'm not doing it for anybody but me. So obviously, I enjoy it.
Yeah. So one last question. A few years ago, you moved back down to Mississippi, where you're sitting right now in your home in Clarksdale. How has that gone for you, and what do you like about living there in the Delta?
Oh, I like a whole lot about it. I mean, some of my earliest memories are from around here. Back in the 50s, we used to come and visit because I had three uncles that lived here. And I saw Clarksdale go from a hustling, bustling, thriving town to almost a ghost town. And now I'm watching it coming back. There's new clubs and new restaurants all the time, and people moving here from all over. And I have cousins here. I have memories here. Uh, I love the food here. There's good friends. And from here, it's not far up to Memphis or down to New Orleans or over to Nashville, or you can take the train from here up to Chicago. Um, the whole Delta is fascinating, and I could be in the Mississippi River in about 15 minutes at Friars Point, and which is another place of early memories. And it just feels good. I tell people you can just feel the blues in the air, just rising up out of the soul.
Yeah.
And you can hear more blues here than you will in Memphis, that's for sure. They got live blues here every night, all year long, at least one place, and often many places.
Did you see the movie Sinners?
I haven't had a chance yet. I'd sure like to, and everybody I know that's seen it, it really raves about it. Have you
Yeah.
seen it?
Yeah, I saw it and I thought it was great. I mean, you have to have a taste for horror movies because about halfway through it becomes a vampire movie somewhat unexpectedly. But I thought it was a brilliant piece of art and it centers the great blues artists that we love and that have been such a big part of your life. And so I think it's amazing, in this in the time we are right now for a brilliant young African American writer and director like Coogler to center Mississippi Delta and the bluesmen as central characters in the American story. It's great.
Well, it's great that blues is uh, getting more acceptance and not people are not calling it the devil's music like they used to. And uh, there's young black players coming up that are fabulous, and they're not trying to be guitar shredders. They're playing the old school, real down home blues with all its subtleties, and it's just so beautiful. It's like Real Davenport is one of my favorite young players, and there's a whole lot of great players. I hate to start naming them because I'll forget somebody,
Yeah,
but
well, from the Clarksdale area, making a lot of noise is Kingfish.
oh yeah, he's tearing it up. And
Uh,
right here in Clarksdale, and I can see it from my front window. There's the Delta Blues Museum, and every afternoon they have a school for kids that want to learn how to play blues. So Kingfish came out of that school right there.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think a lot of that was funded by the Stovall family, which had the plantation, which is that whole part of history is just uh, kind of wild and chilling, but it's amazing that they've contributed in that way now.
Well, Howard Stovall is a good friend of mine. I see him every now and then here in town.
Yeah, he still lives there.
Yeah.
We have some other mutual. I have some other mutual friends with him. Um, well, Charlie, thank you very much for your time, and congrats again on the new album, which is really great. I would urge everyone to go out and check out Lookout Highway. Um, it's some good old down home blues, but with a little bit of a modern twist. And Charlie, you're a master at it, And there's less than, the young guys coming up are awesome, and I'm so glad they're doing it. But having the connection to the roots and the origins of so much of this modern electric blues like you do means a lot. There's not that many guys left who played with John Lee Hooker in a meaningful way. And there's something that means something too.
Well, I go all the way back to, those old timers on Beale Street. So that was even before John Lee. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the guys who were old when you were young, are really going back to the true roots of the music.
Yeah, Big Joe Williams and I, we roomed together in Chicago. So I really got a lot of stories out of him. I wish I'd written them down.
Yeah, that's amazing. Him and his nine-string guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Charlie, thank you very much. Um, Best of luck to you, and I hope to get down to Clarksdale to see you in person.
I hope you can do too. And I hope you can bring Woody with you. If you can't, come by yourself. We'll show you the Delta. It's great to see you and talk with you, and hope to see you in person.
Thank you, Charlie. You too.
Take care, my friend.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.